Look at this page of the Senator Liliana Segre. In this video, I am to comment the blind spot of the racial law in Europe and ask Nathan Cofnas about it. In fact, it is clear from the reports of the real witnesses of the Holocaust and real documentation that some of those racial laws have never been abolished but renewed after the war in 1949 and extended to all over the Western world. First of all, on the 3rd of January 1925, Mussolini enacted the fascist racial law in Italy to persecute the Democrats and the secular values of democracy, especially the freedom of choice and the secular value of justice. Then, in 1935, Hitler made the Nazi racial law in Germany. Then, in October 1938, Mussolini imported the Nazi racial laws to please his German ally. This is what you mark as the beginning of fascism, but the fascist racial law persecuting the Democrats, those were enacted 14 years before in 1925, the 3rd of January. At this point, I invite Mr. Cofnas to interview the Holocaust survivor and Senator for Life, Miss Liliana Segre. From the senator, I wonder if she was persecuted because of the fascist racial laws enacted on the 3rd of January 1925, or she had to wait 14 years later, in October 1938, for the imported Nazi racial laws. We can also read the answer from Wikipedia. Then, after the war, in 1945, the Nazi racial law has been abolished, but the fascist racial laws, also named as the very fascist law and renamed the cultural laws, as you call them today, those have never been abolished but renewed in 1949 and extended to all over the Western world, to consolidate the democracy achieved with 20 years of intellectual cleansing and racial laws. As you can see, the senator was never persecuted by the fascist racial law, and this makes her the best cover-up for the fascist racial law that are still in force today. I wonder the senator could tell how many Italian Democrats have been expelled from parliament, stripped of their identity, had their citizenship revoked, diplomas and laurea vanished and sent to exile. Since 1925, long before her and long after her, until today, as it is still going on today as we speak. How do you believe whatever idiot from all over the world has the rights to feel honest with the recommendations of the bishop for diplomas and degrees they never had, while the other, the locals, cannot have confirmation of their true academic career from state university, become paperless like counterfeiters, and are persecuted as terrorists for their claims to have rights, not to be the impostor? Those are not disjoint individual cases, but instances of the same system of exclusion, enacted on the 3rd of January 1925 and renewed in 1949 all over the Western world. And this is exactly what makes all professor and university instances of the same racist propaganda. Dear Cofnas, on the 3rd of January 1925, Mussolini said that the democratic values have to be found in the Catholic tradition. Then he dismissed the parliament, the political parties, the freedom of press, created Vatican City, made the Catholic religion the religion of state and persecuted the opposition as apostates of the faith and enemy of the state. After 100 years, I wonder if you could name one democratic value that it has ever been a Catholic value in history. I wonder if you could tell how the democratic values have become Catholic legacy without having to quote the fascist racial laws enacted in 1925 and then renewed in 1949 and extended to all over the Western world. I wonder if you could ask the Senator Liliana Segre or someone to answer the question, or the only evidence is all of you hiding behind the cultural laws of the Catholic mafia. Before Mussolini, there was no Vatican, and the Vatican was prohibited the public administration of the civil rights of the people, because of the alternative system of value of the Church and the regime of intellectual servitude and the moral blackmail they represent. I wonder if you could tell why it took a dictatorship to restore the Vatican. Then I like to underline that especially the secular value of justice, especially the emancipation from the divine justice, is the exact reason why the ancient Roman used to call the Christian with the name of uncivilized barbarians and terrorists. And this doesn't make me a communist, but makes them Romans from Jerusalem. With best regards, Luca Benatti.